But yeah,
But
I totally would.
But you do at least a decent amount of hiking alone, right? Now, what is that experience like? Because there's a lot of things that could happen on a hike. You could run into weather. You
Yeah.
can run into wildlife. Like, what is the experience like doing that alone? And maybe you could give us some advice on how you could be a little bit more safe in doing so.
Yeah, so it's weird because I'm never nervous when I'm out by myself. Like, I'm never on edge. Doesn't mean I'm not prepared or, like aware of things, but I get this question a lot of like, you're going out there alone? Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I just don't feel scared. Like, weather can be unpredictable. But I always have like essentials in my backpack. I always have, gloves, a hat, raincoat. I feel like the bare minimum at least. What else did you ask me?
Like what about like running into wildlife? Because that's another factor.
Yeah. So at least like when I saw you in the Tetons, I never carried bear spray. And, after that, though, I did go out and buy some bear spray.
I brought the bear spray that day.
But again, like we saw moose today on our hike, and I wasn't scared that they were going to come. They're unpredictable. They are wild animals, but I also feel like if you're giving off the energy of like, oh, I'm scared, or like they can pick up on that. And at the end of the day, we're in their territory. So I just feel like being smart about it and keeping your distance. When I was in the Tetons one day, I was hiking by myself and I came around the corner and there was a bear literally probably 3 feet in front of me. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just started backing away and he just looked at me and I was like, okay, like we're going to be fine. And then he just waddled off and like, that was that. And I was like, okay, that wasn't that bad. And yeah, I know I didn't have bear spray on me either at the time.
For those listening, don't take her safety advice because
yeah,
you need
I was
going to
say
spray.
I don't know if I am the person to go to for safety tips. But yeah, I don't know. I just never have felt like that is really something that I need to be like so worried about. I mean, you need to be cautious about it, but it's also like the bears that you're going to see on trails, around the Tetons and stuff are different than bears you would see out in the wild, like backcountry of like Montana. So I think it's like kind of knowing where you are and just like knowing, I don't know, just being aware and honestly just, for lack of better terms, not being stupid and just being prepared and knowing like, okay, if I see a bear, this is what I do. If I see a moose, this is what I do, and just don't get too close. You're in their space, it's not, it's their home. So.
Right. There's a lot of good resources online that you can find, what you should and should not do around wildlife. And like you said, too, it's about being respectful of their territory, their home. I mean, if you encroach upon their space, they might react in a way that you're not going to be happy with the consequences of that. But as long as you know what you're doing, generally you should be fine. Unless you run into a bear that's 3 feet in front of you. That'd be terrifying.
It was a little scary. But it was actually on the way down from like one of my longest hikes ever, and it just took me so by surprise. And in that moment, I was like, okay, well, if I go out this way, then like I guess that's kind of epic, like I'm in the Tetons and like whatever. Not the worst way to go out.
How big was that bear? Would you say?
It was kind of smaller, like I don't know. It kind of looked like maybe like a teenage like age-ish bear.
Gotcha.
If I had to give it.
I think you may have told me at least the location. Was that in Cascade Canyon?
Yes.
Going around.
Yep.
Which is a great hike if you have time to do it and you're up there. I've done at least part of that when I was really little, but it's beautiful in there.
Oh, it's so stunning.
And I think one of the cool things about running into wildlife is because a lot of people don't ever have those experiences on a day-to-day basis. We get a little bit more of that because we go out a lot and we go to all these places somewhat frequently. But, before I moved out here, and I'm sure the same way for you being in Boston, like there's no bears around.
No.
There's no moose.
I've never seen a bear.
Yeah, there's none of that wildlife. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were doing a show the other day with Bryce, and he didn't know what the difference between a moose, a caribou, and a deer was. Mm-hmm. And it's like, a lot of people don't have those experiences. Yeah. But when they have it for the first time, it is kind of like, it's a life-changing type of thing.
Yeah.
Because suddenly they realize, like, wow, there is other things out here.
Yep.
And if I'm not careful, it could go bad.
Yeah.